turn me around, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking on the freedom land. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around, no, turn me around. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom land. Ain't gonna let discrimination turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Gonna let discrimination turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom land. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom.
Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the We Believe Digital Studios, broadcasting live, Sizzling in Mississippi. Black woman and white man at the Crossroads, trying to bring about a little change, initiate some dialogue, create a community, conversations about fairness and equity, and moving the needle towards higher and higher levels of equality here in Mississippi, and God knows we have a long way to go. And my name is Chris Young, and my co-host
is Ma'ati Joan Prim. Good evening, everyone.
How are you doing tonight, Mati?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fine. We're rolling along with it. We got a little bit of a late start tonight, so we'll probably end up maybe having about a 40-minute show or so, but we've got several different things to bring to you tonight, and we're really glad that you're joining us, on Facebook, on YouTube. Right now we're redoing the WeBelieveDigital.com website, and soon we'll be back on Roku. We were on a little pause with Roku TV, so we'll get that back to you soon. Our call-in number is 1-800-492-5186. Our producer on the ones and twos in the back room is Dexter Morgan. And he's handling his business back there, making this possible. We just couldn't do this without him and his sidekick, Ariel. So we're grateful for the people we have to help us make all this happen. Let me just throw a little quiz out there as we get started. Something happened now. You can't say too much because it'd be a giveaway.
Yeah, but this is a hard one tonight.
This is a hard quiz, but look, we know the kind of people we got watching Sizzling in Mississippi. And let's just say this. 100 years ago today, there was a paper that was published that gravely impacted African Americans, especially in the Deep South, but not only the Deep South, because that paper eventually led to legislatures in 18 different states passing certain legislation. So what was it? What was that all about? What was the topic of that paper, which was called a model paper on a certain topic? You be sure to let us know, and we'll give you the double snaps or something as a kind of a reward. Maybe one day we'll have some Sizzling in Mississippi coffee mugs, and we'll have you stop by the studio and pick one up when you answer a quiz right.
Right.
So, Joni, we had talked about talking about the demographics of Mississippi, just
right,
because so many people would be knowing that information or having a pretty darn good idea about that information.
Yes.
But we just want to spell it out because I know certainly there are some people on the East Coast that I know for sure, because I've heard feedback from them that are hearing this, and they might know that. And I got a couple of folks out in California that are watching. So, we're a state of just under 3 million people. So 2.949, and this is based off the 2020 census.
Yes.
And
And the population is decreasing.
is decreasing.
Yes.
Something, I think the last one was 0.3 or, no, I'm sorry, 0.04%
Yeah.
from the previous census.
Yeah. Yes.
A good point. And 58.8% of Mississippi is the European American variety, aka white people like me. 58.8%, and 38% of the state is populated by African Americans.
I have a problem with that.
Okay.
Statistic. I don't think it's correct.
I don't think it's correct either. It's certainly not reflected in Jackson, much higher.
No. But I mean, if you think about all of the larger cities
Yeah.
in Mississippi,
Yeah.
most of them are majority black or at least half.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yes.
And so you have like the smaller towns that may be majority white, but those are small.
So this could be a counting, who's going out to get those canvases done,
There you go.
collecting the numbers.
Right. Becomes meaningful. That's why they do the census, I feel, every 10 years, is because it's significant.
And this says too, 3.5% of Mississippi is Hispanic or Latino.
Okay.
1.1% Asian. 1.4% 2 or more races. And again, that number just seems way off.
Yeah. When you have Jones County.
When you have Jones County, and Mr. Garrett was just talking on the previous show about using the word mulatto and saying that there may be more mulattoes in Mississippi than any other state in the country.
Right.
So that's just to give you an idea. And of course, last night we mentioned 20% of the state statewide living in poverty. Of course. In Jackson, the capital city, and the city with the largest geographic, and the MSA,
Yes.
the statistical area that they go by, certainly far more than that. I don't know. Some days I want to, think it could be above 35%.
Yes.
In poverty.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's nothing like it. I mean, if you look at other cities or visit other cities, you just don't see the level of desperation
Yeah.
and economic insecurity that you do here.
That's right. That's it. So that's just a little snapshot of the demographics of Mississippi, so that all of our viewers can. Hey, Chattanooga, Tennessee, checking in. Good to see you, Miss Carol. The next thing we wanted to get to tonight, and again, it really does look like the show will be just a little bit shorter tonight, and we apologize for that. But we're really, this studio is constantly evolving and trying to improve itself and admitting when we make mistakes and endeavoring to do better, and it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, a lot of times people make a mistake and they want to bury it in the sand, right. But we've got conscientious people here, and we're just moving it forward. So anyway, the next topic that we wanted to talk about is just really, an eye opener. Take a look at this. I mean, so in Mississippi we have 174 folks in the state legislature. So you're talking about two houses. You have what's referred to as the lower house, the House of Representatives, and then you have an upper house, which is called the Senate. And so the lower house has 121 or 124 121 folks in there, and the upper house has 52 folks in there. But what's happened here in Mississippi is that so I guess I'm trying to think of the simplistic way to say it, but I don't, it's just dominated by Republican folks. So yes, of course, we have Democrats
Right,
in our
right.
legislature.
Yeah.
But the majority are Republicans, and
Right.
the majority are white. And of course, when you open up all the bios to look at these elected officials,
Right.
part-time legislature,
Right.
getting ready to go into session January 4th, be in session roughly 3 months, sometimes get extended a little bit, sometimes have a special session,
Right.
very expensive. But in any event, so in the House of Representatives, there's 74 Republicans, 42 Democrats, 3 independents. And roughly 75% of all those people are white and 39 are black. So, that gives you, the super majority, to have a super majority where it's almost like the other party doesn't even have to show up for work.
Right. Right.
The magic number is 71.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's 74 Republicans.
Yeah.
So when it comes to something that you're going to go into great detail a little later in the show,
Right.
Using an example of that, it's really bizarre. Same thing on the Senate side: 36 Republicans, 16 Democrats. The supermajority magic number is 31, and again, there's already 36 Republicans. So on a lot of these issues that are highly political and cut along those red and blue lines,
Yes.
the Democrats, they can take a what's one of those days where you take when you used to skip school or
Right,
something,
yeah,
or
just play
or
hooky.
play
Yeah.
hooky, or
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
mental health day, or
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. Call
and
in sick. Yeah.
Call in sick, and again on the Senate side, roughly 39 are white folks and 13 are black folks. We have a legislative black caucus in Mississippi. Now, again, I just say this in the context of having more African Americans per capita than the state of Mississippi, and yet our representation in the legislature doesn't reflect that at all. It doesn't come near to that.
No, it doesn't. Yet and still, Mississippi has more black elected officials than any other state in the union.
Amen.
But it's not doing us any good under this particular system.
That's
Yeah.
right. So 53 members in both houses, 53 total make up the legislative black caucus.
Right.
So overall, by a supermajority, our legislator is Caucasian, Republican, and Christian. And all that becomes very, very important when we look at why it's sizzling in Mississippi,
Right.
why Mississippi is still burning.
Right. But they never have to cross the aisle.
They don't
There's
have
never any negotiation.
to. They don't have to.
Right. Right. It's the problem, unfortunately, with democracy, is that it's a lovely concept, but everyone feels like, oh, I have a vote. But does your vote actually matter?
Right.
And
Right.
that's the problem. When you have the numbers that we have here, how much of it does it really matter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how much? And so, black people and black issues, how do we approach our elected officials?
And how do things get on the surface?
Yeah, get done. Right. That's the reason why when we were talking yesterday about the women, pregnant women, and maternity, and the lack of funding for women, poor women especially, but black women in general, because it becomes a question of race more than economic or social status.
Right.
And we can't get over the hump if the state refuses funds from the federal government. And so people die.
And if we turn that around,
Yeah.
now let me just ask: can you say that those vastly majority black mothers that will die because they're poor
Yeah.
due to lack of proper health care, those new mothers in that first year, is it a fair statement then to say that those people, those new mothers, just don't matter. If we're not going to accept the free money from the federal government to give them the health care they need,
right?
Is that what that's saying?
Yes, and it's inexcusable.
Inexcusable.
And we're supposed to be one of the most Christian states in the Union. What does Christianity look like, and how does it work?
Love thy neighbor.
Yeah,
And
as
to the
thyself.
least of these.
Yes.
And
yes.
how about not showing partiality?
Right, right. Where does this come in? Where's the Christ-like behavior? To watch people die unnecessarily.
Yeah, it's just not necessary. And of course, while all that's going on this year, when they let the postpartum die on the vine,
Yes.
while all that's going on, we we find out about $94 million being sucked away from what was is earmarked by the federal government for the poorest families in our state.
Yes.
Now, every state gets these monies.
Yes.
But just siphoned, like they turned it into a slush fund for themselves.
Yes, yes.
Sad stuff.
It's tragic. It's tragic, and it's the reason why Mississippi looks like it does. And like I was saying about democracy is a lovely concept, but the only problem is if you're not part of the majority, then you lose.
You lose. Yeah, it's just doesn't add up. We got a couple other people joining the chat. Hey, I know that guy really, really well. God almighty, I had to share a bedroom with that guy that's just dialed in from California when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah?
Good to see you, Tim. And so, yeah, it's just, and some of the stuff that comes, and I know you're going to get into when we come back from the break, we'll use this next segment to get deep into an example of that supermajority where the critical race theory came to play.
Right.
But, some of the other stuff that goes on around here, we have a governor that stood up and took an oath to serve all Mississippians. Yeah. And yet this is just not what happens. And like we have this water crisis here where people went without running water. There's people that have lived here for decades that have been drinking bottled water because they simply just don't trust what's coming through the tap. And yet I was just looking at a tweet a couple days ago from our illustrious governor Tate Reeves, who, if you have any doubt about competency and so forth, whenever he gets on a national news show, it's all transparent. It's all confirmed instantly. What's the red meat and all. And this is a guy that in the middle of the water crisis is down in Hattiesburg, south of Jackson, doing a little fundraising down there, talking about what a great day it was in Hattiesburg and what a great and that it's always a good day to not be in Jackson, Mississippi. Now that's the governor of the state talking about the capital city of the state.
Right.
Bizarre. And then 3 days ago, when they finally came to an agreement with the feds on the water system, he tweeted, "It's excellent news for anyone who cares about the people of Jackson that the mayor will no longer be overseeing the city's water system. It is now out of the city's control and will be overseen by a federal court." How's that for words from a chief executive of the capital city,
Right.
that works in the capital city?
It's indicative of his behavior when he has press conferences regarding Jackson.
Yeah.
And he's not inviting the mayor to the press conference.
Yeah.
In any other state, you'll see the mayor and you'll see the governor standing together talking about the issue.
Right.
Whether they agree or not, they're
set that
seeking,
aside.
Yeah, they set it aside,
Yeah.
and they're looking for
Right.
a sense of compromise and common ground that just doesn't exist here.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the way that the governor speaks about the mayor.
Just disdain.
Yes.
Gross disrespect.
I've just never seen it anywhere else like this.
And this is the first time I've ever even seen him mention people of Jackson. He's not fond of talking about the residents, the people that actually live here.
No.
So, hey, we're running up on the end of the first segment. We thank you so much for tuning in, joining the chat. We've got the ability to call in. Our call-in number is 1-800-492-5186. We're glad you're joining us for Sizzling in Mississippi. And we'll be right back after a couple quick commercials.
Let's read and learn together. Meet Mason. Written by Sherry Tate. Illustrated by David. Mason is a young, inspired learner. Walk with him as he uses his 5 senses to explore the world around him. Your young one can learn to identify shapes, numbers, letters, and more with Meet Mason. Available now on Amazon.com. Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee. To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Wedding, milestone anniversary, or corporate event, 5-Star Lodge is the rustic elegance you need for your event space. With hardwood and stunning chandeliers, this is just the beginning of the 5-star treatment. Our on-site venue manager will ensure all details exceed your expectations. We offer a luxurious bridal lounge, beautiful reception hall, cabins, and an outdoor pavilion on the water. Visit 5stareventlodge.com to get started on your most memorable experience.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Sizzling in Mississippi. Black woman and white man at the crossroads, trying to garner some attention to all these issues that we have going on here in this state, which is a gorgeous state in a million different ways, and yet the horrible racism and oppression that parades through this state day in and day out sucks away from all that, and we end up being bottom dwellers at the bottom of every list. And
every good list, we're at the bottom, and every bad list, we're at the top.
Absolutely. And education being right there on the 50th mark, huh?
Right, yes, yes.
Now, you've done some research on CRT, which ends up being a good example to show people about this super majority and how, the Democrats might as well have not even showed up when it came to this CRT bill.
Right, right. With the CRT bill, it reads, here's a sort of a short version of it. Civil rights and human rights education. Oops, that's not the one. Which one? It's right here. Okay. That's another part of the bill. An act to create new section 37-13-2 of the Mississippi Code of 1972 to provide that no public institution of higher learning, community college, junior college, school district, or charter school shall direct or compel students to affirm that any sex, race, ethnicity, religion, or national origin is inherently superior, or that individuals should be adversely treated based on such characteristics, to provide that no distinction or classification of students shall be made on account of race other than the required collection or reporting of demographic information, to provide that no course of instruction shall be taught that affirms such principles, to provide that no funds shall be expended by the State Department of Education, any entity under the Department of charter schools, school districts, junior colleges, the Mississippi Community College Board, the Board of Trustees of State Institutions of Higher Learning, or public institutions of higher learning for any purpose that would violate this act, to provide for the severability of the act and for related purposes. And once this was voted on, it was enforced immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, that's what they called for. And basically what they're saying here, because it's a lot of mumble jumble, is that you can't hurt white people's feelings
Yeah.
in the teaching of history.
So if you're a little white kid in Mississippi and you found out what your great-grandfather and his
Right.
father was really up to,
Right,
that would be bad.
right, yeah,
Even though that was the truth,
right,
it'd be bad.
right.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So anything, you know, if you find out about, they have terms for it that it's just hard for me to even say. But let's say rape and kidnapping, captivity, wrongful incarcerations, torturous incarcerations, enslavement, police brutality. You find out that your grandfather, the county sheriff, was a rapist. Well, I can't tell you that because it would hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, the truth. So really, the truth will not set you free.
No, it's not going. It's going to. The lie is going to make you comfortable.
In a predominantly Christian state.
Right. Yeah, we can't spell Christ, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know the audience is getting it. Sizzling.
Yeah.
Sizzling in Mississippi. Just backward type thing, you know, and piggybacking on what Mahati was just saying, you know, one of the organizations that leads a lot of these Republican thinking and all is the Mississippi Center for Public Policy. They kind of know what's best for everybody and the way things ought to be. And they said about this, you've got to have academic and intellectual freedom in America. We do have a responsibility to make sure public money is not being used to indoctrinate children with one particular viewpoint. So how is indoctrinating children with one particular viewpoint compatible with academic and intellectual freedom?
Right.
They don't go together. So what you're really saying is we don't trust our kids to be able to discern anything.
Right.
We're going to make sure that script is clean. We're going to make sure those history books show the Native American Indians showing up with a stalk of corn to present at the Thanksgiving dinner of the settlers.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it went down.
Yeah. Well, I call it thanks snatching, but yeah.
Thanks snatching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they do, and it's amazing because, you know, when we talk about critical race theory, we're actually just saying truth in history.
Yes.
Is what we were looking for.
And it isn't a one fell swoop either.
No.
It is one model. It is one theoretical
Right.
viewpoint to consider. I mean, I used to work in the counseling field for years and years and years, and there's numerous different approaches to utilize different theories to apply in counseling. So nobody says, "Oh, well, you definitely can't." No, people and lots of eclectic counselors, like I tried my best to be, would take pieces from different types of theories to form a practice, you know?
Right. But it's not that way here. Plus, it's like there's kind of a threat to it, you know? Because if you violate this, you won't be funded.
Yeah.
If you're a public institution or a charter school, which is still publicly funded. And there's something absolutely derelict with that. That's why we end up being 50th in education, because we're not educating, we're indoctrinating.
So you're dictating, you're
A lie.
You're dictating a lie.
Yes.
Or you're dictating. There's no opportunity to learn the fuller truth.
Right.
In the public school system.
Right.
And if you if you try to do anything to learn the fuller truth,
Right.
you'll get penalized
Yes.
funding wise.
Oh yes, yeah. Can't
Bizarre.
remain. Right.
Bizarre. And
right.
and again, U.S. News and World Report says this last year that Mississippi is ranked 50th in education overall.
Yeah, once again. But it's interesting. This is part of the Mississippi Code of 1972. And so what is in the code says civil rights and human rights education in public schools is authorized, and guidelines are to be implemented. And the State Board of Education may make civil rights and human rights education a part of K through 12 curriculum. Now, it doesn't say anything about Black history. See, one problem that we have is that we often equate civil rights to Black history, and that's all it is. There is enslavement, and then there is the Montgomery bus boycott and Martin Luther King, and culminating into Barack Obama's election as president, and there you go, and that's it. But there's far more to Black history than that. First of all, it's global history, and it's much older than America.
Right.
Right.
Nobody wants to think that one through.
Right. First people on earth. And we have to go back, eons to discover who Black people really are. And because we're not doing that, the ignorance that prevails creates crime.
Creates crime.
Yeah. Because
Ignorance mixed with poverty,
Yes. Hopelessness.
predictor of crime.
Yes.
Desperation.
Yes. Yeah, desperation and a sense of living on a survival level and never thinking that one can rise above that.
And once again, Black History Month is not, by the state itself, is not proclaimed.
No.
Nor is Juneteenth.
Right.
By the government of Mississippi.
Right.
And yet every single, one of the last days of April, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Confederate heritage is
it's a Confederate Memorial
Day.
But the entire month of April, now in the state of Mississippi, is Confederate History Month.
So, but we can teach that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things that happened, very noteworthy, when this bill that Mahati's been describing was brought up for a vote in the Senate, every last Black senator got out of their chair and walked out of the room. And that left two Democrats in the room, two Democrats, both of whom were white, and they voted against the bill. And then sat back down in their chairs. But all their African-American colleagues walked out the room totally. But yet I was researching earlier, and there were four different Republicans in the Senate when this vote came up that didn't even vote at all, or were either absent or those not voting. So I don't know if they were looking for cover to not be involved with this, or they knew it was going to go through anyway, so they kind of stepped away from it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and just one of those senators that walked out, I just want to share a quote with you, and sort of, in a way, it almost puts a bow on top of everything that you've just shared. And this is not needed. It's a waste of my time and your time. I know there are people out there who have fear, but a good senator can relay to them that there is no basis for their fear. It's sad to have wasted so much time on something that's not even necessary. Right. David Jordan, who spent 20 years as an educator and has been in the Senate for 30 years now, we cannot continue to stumble into the future backwards. We cannot continue to stumble into the future backwards. That's what this bill does. That's why we don't need it. Powerful, powerful stuff.
Yes.
Just really puts an exclamation point on all you've shared.
Yes. Thank you.
And back to that quiz, we're rapidly running out of time. We got a little bit of a late start tonight due to this and that, and but we don't want to hold up the next podcast that's due to start at 7 o'clock. So, but I didn't see anything on the chat about somebody wanting to answer the quiz, but
That was a tough question.
a really tough question. 100 years ago today, what the paper that was published, which then led to legislators in 18 states passing laws, was eugenicist Harry Laughlin, publishes, quote, model sterilization law, which 18 states passed in the following 5 years, which led to devastation.
Yes.
And we're certainly not sterilizing white people.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. It was an act of genocide.
with an act of genocide. And this is what we have going on in the country today. People are scared to death
Right.
of what's going on with the census.
Right.
We talked about the census earlier, but I really failed to include that, you know, as of the last census, the white population in America is down to 58.7%. Now that's from 88 or something like that, 60 years ago. So the white population continues to decline. America is browning, and that is absolutely not okay with a whole lot of people in this country. And I assure you, a lot of those people are right here in Mississippi, and that's part of why we're sizzling.
Yes. Yes.
So we ready to wrap it up and strive for a good weekend. JSU Tigers in town against Southern University tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'll be at the Vet. You know, I'll probably, unlike a lot of people, I'll be up in the cheap seats.
Okay.
That's where it's at. Plus, I get a little exercise on the way up and the way down. But big game for the SWAC championship, so be rooting for those JSU Tigers.
Indeed.
And thank you so much for joining us. We will be back at 6 p.m. on Monday and be going all through next week, every night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks so much for tuning in, following us in the chat, and stay safe out there.